welcome everybody to the Land Rover Defender. This car is known for its off-roading prowess all over the world, but this one is slightly different. This one is made for those who have to carry more people. This is focused on comfort and luxury because this is the 130. You can't tell much from the front 3/4, but because the rear extension is actually from the rear wheel arch onwards, which I'll show you later. Let's see how this longer version of the Defender is. The front end of the Defender, especially of this 130, looks just like the other versions, the 90 and the 110. It's very imposing and it looks very smart, especially we've been doing Land Rover stuff with Land Rover, so you can see it's a bit muddy and I apologize for that. But it's a really smart looking vehicle and it's been in the market for a few years now, yet it still turns heads. We have this car in the first edition, so this color, Sedona Red, is exclusive to the first edition, and I think it actually brings out the personality even more, and it's been turning heads on the streets much more than I expected. I personally was a fan and still am a very big fan of the way this Defender looks from the front. The side profile of the Defender 130 is then when you realize how big and long our vehicle is. Up to the rear door, it's literally just the 110. After the rear door is where the 130 part comes in. You can see it's a bit extended. I'm personally not a big fan of the extension after the rear arch because it almost looks like a mini school bus, to be very honest. Thank God this car is not in a yellow paint, or else it would literally look like a school bus. It looks smart though, and it has retained the boxy outlook that the Defender has always been famous for. And as you can see, it's nice because the front up to the rear door, it's very smart, and after the rear, they have integrated well. It does not look like a hack job. But I feel like it's just a bit too long, especially after the rear wheel. The overhang is a bit too long. You can see the windows are very, very long, especially the rear window onwards, and they have tried to break the monotony with a plaque of the same body color on the rear window. And yeah, otherwise it's an unmistakably a Defender, and I think that might actually be a good thing. Another downer that I find on this car are the wheels. This is the first edition, so this is the only wheel option you have with this car. It's a bit conservative, I feel. The design is too simple. The color is nice because it's grey, or it was grey. Now it's brown because of the off-roading we've done. Maybe a better wheel design would have really finished off and complemented the whole side profile of the Defender. The rear of the Defender is again very iconic. It's got the spare wheel mounted on the rear tailgate, and it's got the nice LED brake lights on both sides. The rear window is also pretty big, so the visibility is good. And again, overall, when you see this on the road, you will not mistake it aside for anything else. The only thing is you won't be able to tell if it's a 130, 110 or 90 just by looking at bang on from the rear. Since this is the first edition, you'll find some minimal badging which says first edition on the tailgate, and I think that badge looks really premium. In fact, all Defenders should have a badge, even if they don't have the first edition written on it, but they should have similar badging because it looks really good. There's also Defender badging on the spare wheel cover, which again is iconic and you can't mistake it for anything else. The rear complements the side and the front of the car really well, and Land Rover has nailed all aspects of design for the Defender. As you can see, the tailgate of the Defender opens sideways, which is again a little difficult in tight parking spaces, especially in malls and stores. It's sometimes difficult in tight spaces to open the boot because when you open it upwards, it takes less space. The boot space is very decent. With all 3 rows up, you can take in a few bags and a few cabin luggages, which is decent for a holiday. If you want more space, you have to fold the 3rd row, which is again 3-way split. So you can actually fold only the middle part or the right seat or the left seat. This is actually useful for long items like skis or snowboards, where you can just slide it in through the passengers, which is very useful, and it's a long car, so it can take in a lot of stuff. I had to move furniture a few days back, and this was the perfect vehicle to do it. It took all furniture with all the rows folded perfectly fine. Now I'm inside the Defender and it's a lovely place to be. Land Rover has nailed it, the fine balance between utility and luxury. Utility because all this leather you see is one wipe easy. You can just wipe it off. It's leatherette material. It's not really the full luxurious leather, which is fine because it looks pretty premium, just like how it should be at this price point. The utility part is that there are cup holders, wireless charger. There's a very massive storage space here that you can put your stuff. There is a massive storage space here which you can put long items, and there's nice pocket doors as well, which you can put lots of things. You've got all the basic features. You've got wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto wired with a Type-C port and a Type-A port. And yeah, it just feels rugged and luxurious, which is a very rare combo for brands to nail it, and Land Rover has nailed it. You've got a very nice high driving position, so you feel like you're the king of the road. And one grouse though, which I'm slightly getting used to, is that I feel like this is one of the biggest steering wheels I've seen in recent times. Like turning it with one hand takes a lot of effort, so you really need to use two hands, and it's really big. So when you sit, you're just like your hands are really upright. Though the armrest on the door and the center one is placed very nice, so you can actually just hold it while your elbows are resting on this, which is really nice. This is a very big storage, and it's cooled, so you can put anything. You can put a fizzy drink or anything which will be cooled in peak summer, which is a great feature. You've got an all digital speedometer, and you've got this really nice screen, which is the PV Pro as Land Rover calls it. This is the 11-inch screen, which is standard on the 130, which is an option on the 90 and the 110. The touch response is really good. The cameras in the system, it's very clear. The display, the graphics resolution of the Apple CarPlay is superb. Like honestly, no complaints on this. You've got the two knobs for the AC controls, dual zone, multifunctional. So if you want the seat heating, you have to press the button, the settings change. For the fan speed, for the terrain response, if you want to make quick changes, you can just press button, just use the same knob, which is really intuitive to use, and it's great implementation because then there is no there's no clutter of buttons. They're just minimal buttons, but it still has all the functions, which is great planning and thought by Land Rover. One downside I feel is though, when you're trying to use the the screen in the middle, I feel like the gear lever comes in the way a little bit. So it's like when you have to touch something, especially if it's on the bottom, you have to move your finger across. You can't actually touch it. So if you do that, you'll have to fight with the gear lever. But again, that's not a deal breaker because when you're driving, you're not using the screen most of the time. So that's fine. Again, they have just nailed the utility part of the interior. There's so many things and it feels premium. I can't complain anything, and it feels bang on, accurate, and at place with the price point of this car. I'm now in the middle row of the Defender, and yes, middle row because this is the 130. There's a third row as well in this for people. This is the 8-seater version, and the 130 only comes in 8-seater. So 2, 3, 3. And it's very spacious. 3 people can very comfortably sit in the middle, 3 adults. You've got nice big headrest as well. You've got an armrest which you fold, and you have lots of space for passenger. The armrest has cup holders. You've got door pockets in here. You've got 3-zone AC in the back, which is really nice. And legroom is not a problem. The seat is actually a little further behind than what I would usually sit, and I've got a lot of knee room. Foot room is really good. You can tuck in your shoes. Under thigh support is good. Headroom is really not an issue at all for me at 5'8". The windows are pretty big, so there's a lot of sunlight. The glass roof comes all the way back, so again, more sources of light because this is a black interior. You don't feel dark or claustrophobic at any time. You've got nice elements. You've got the leatherette material, you've got slide of wood, and you've got the outer exterior panels, which is on the front as well, and the rivets, which give it a bit of that rugged look, which was there in other SUVs like the Bronco as well. They're trying to emphasize the outdoorish, rugged look that this truck has. You've got nice grab rails in the back to get in, which I actually miss in the front because getting in the front can be a little difficult since this vehicle does not have side steps. Otherwise, it's really comfortable, and you can actually sit in the rear, in the middle row as well for long journeys. The third row is also really spacious. Third rows of most vehicles are very tight for adults, mostly suited for kids. But this is one vehicle where adults can sit in the third row very, very comfortably as well. You've got a lot of legroom there as well, good enough, your headroom as well, and you're well catered for because you have your own rear third glass sunroof as well for more light, and you've got heated seats in the third row as well. The third row people are also well pampered, just like the middle row and the front row passengers in this car. Now I'm behind the wheel of the Defender 130. So the Defender 90 and the 110 have quite a few different engine options. So they have the P300, 400, and I think it's called the P530, which is the V8. The 300 is the 4-cylinder. The 400, which this engine is only available, like the 130 is only available in this P400, which is the 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged with the mild hybrid, or the 45-volt mild hybrid. The combined power is 396 horsepower, which is pretty healthy, though this car weighs 2.6 tons, which is again almost like a house. But this car still does a 0 to 100 time under 7 seconds, which is, to be honest, very, very commendable. Let's see how this car drives. So you have to slot the gear lever into drive and set off, and you can see that because of the weight of this engine, because of the weight of this car, there's lots of low-end torque below 2000 rpm, so you are setting off very very easily. Also meant for, I think, if you load it with 8 people, it won't struggle under load. The gearing is also very short, so you can see it changing gears. It's a 8-speed box, which is pretty smooth, I would say, but especially in kick down, sometimes it has a delay, or it's in two minds whether to actually kick down more than a gear or not. But obviously you can take it into sport mode and control it manually as well, because there are no paddle shifters in this car, which is a bit of a downer. But I guess this car is not about driving it enthusiastically, especially with 8 people on board. The suspension, I am on very very muddy roads and it's very broken, but you don't feel anything. The seats are so nice, so comfortable, very well bolstered. You don't feel anything at all. The cushioning is spot on. The suspension geometry is spot on. It's an air suspension setup, so you can lower it, raise it, you can do anything. And you've obviously got the famed Land Rover terrain response system, which can literally pull out the car of any sticky situation, be it mud, snow, gravel, or even water wading. There's a water wading mode, which this car is very famous for. It has an extremely high water wading, which is, I think, slightly above the wheels. I'm not able to remember the exact number, but all I know is you can take it really deep in water puddles, which is ideal for off-roading. This car is basically has all the top-notch off-roading tech which is expected from Land Rover, and now the fact that you can do it with 8 people on board is truly fascinating, and how Land Rover has pulled it off is commendable. The steering is a very large steering wheel, but the feedback is really good, and at low speeds it's very light, so you can park this car very very easily. In tight parking space, it's very easy to maneuver. See, I just went through some very very big bumps. The car shook, but you don't feel anything inside, which is honestly, I don't know how Land Rover has nailed the suspension geometry, but it's so good. This car is not meant for hustling through corners, so don't expect it to have the best cornering abilities on road, because you will feel body roll and it's not what it's meant for. Braking could have been better, although it's not this car's fault, because it weighs so much. When you brake, especially on sudden emergency brakings, you do feel the mass of the car and the inertia of the car pushing forward when you brake, so you really have to push the pedal a bit harder. But the pedal has a positive response. I mean, what can I say? Overall, the engine is very punchy, and it's got enough torque throughout the rev range at any speed, so you can cruise well, you can overtake fully loaded, and you won't feel lagging for more power. Maybe in a future option they might give the V8 a chance in this engine, and I guess that would be the most perfect, coolest way of transporting 8 people ever, honestly. What can I say? Land Rover has nailed the driving dynamics, and you really can't fault this car on the driving ability. In conclusion then, the Defender 130. Well, the Defender 90 and 110 were already very established off-roaders. With the 130, it brings in a lot of practicality as well. You can carry people, you can carry luggage. Maybe you can go off-roading with 8 people. That's something very unique to offer to the market. Or maybe just use it as a regular family car, because it's extremely spacious for all 8 people. It's a very unique take by Land Rover, and they really honestly didn't need to make a 130, but the fact that they have makes them stand alone in the market with such propositions, where it has the retro boxy looks, it looks so smart, it drives really well, and the interior is so luxurious, yet can carry 8 people in pure comfort. Nobody is compromised on space, and that's, I think, basically the whole point of the 130. This first edition is priced at 104,000 as spec, this car before taxes, and I feel like that's a very well priced proposition, because nowadays with inflation and everything, most of these big SUVs are much more expensive than this, which are direct competition to this vehicle. That's why I feel that this Land Rover Defender 130 stands out in the market and is the one you should go for if you're looking for a very luxurious and spacious 8-seater.